everybody. Give us a thumbs up so that we know that you're here. Do I got any thumbs up? Let's see. Okay. Maybe. Good job.
We're going to say yes.
Yes. Okay, welcome to our masterclass on return to running post-baby. You go first because your picture's on this side.
Perfect. I'm Kelsey. I am a pelvic floor physical therapist and owner of Shift Physical Therapy. And I'm excited to be here with you guys tonight.
And I'm Dana, an exercise physiologist, owner of PR Performance Lab, where I help runners of all levels either get out of their injury or for performance enhancement, which, is there a different kind of runner? I don't think so. Let's see. Okay, so some of the things that we're going to hit on today is welcome back to running, how to get started, listening to your body, strength what, and enjoy the journey. Okay?
Okay. Welcome back to your comeback. So me and Dana are so excited to be here to kind of walk you through a step-by-step process, give you some tips and tricks to help you return to running after you've had a baby. One of the things that we'll be going through in a little bit is actually a return to running protocol, which we'll be kind of sprinkling in as we're going. So get ready to do some fun exercises with us. Okay. All right. Go ahead and go next. Okay. So before you begin, we're going to talk about the difference between a pelvic floor physical therapist and a gynecologist and what they look at when you're postpartum. So when you go to your 6-week follow-up, oftentimes what the gynecologist is looking at is if you are medically stable. So do you have any signs of infection? Are you medically cleared to be able to return to exercise? What a pelvic floor physical therapist is looking at is, are you functionally ready? Do you have the strength? Do you have the coordination? Do you have the ability to have your body withstand impact and force through your body? So that's a big difference, and a lot of people think that once they get to their 6 weeks, they're good to go, but there's a lot of changes that happen within your body that make it harder to return to things postpartum, and we're going to talk about some different guidelines to kind of help bridge that gap between, hey, I'm 6 weeks postpartum, and I want to be returning to running. So that's kind of where this medical provider fits in, is we're going to be helping you bridge that gap. So go ahead and click the next one.
Give us a thumbs up or a heart if you have been to a physical therapist or a pelvic floor physical therapist. Let's see how many of you out there are fans of that or even know that that's a thing.
Yes, have you even heard of it?
Because it was not a thing when I was making babies. My baby just turned 10 yesterday. I'm not crying at all. And I ran a marathon between each of my children, and this stuff was not a thing back then. So I love that it is now.
Okay, so there's a really cool return to run protocol that came out a couple years ago, and it's really looking at all facets of what we need to return to running postpartum. So the first part is pelvic floor screening. So our pelvic floor is a hammock of muscles that sit at the bottom of our pelvis. Now, when we have a vaginal delivery, these muscles stretch upwards of 300% of their normal resting length. So there's a lot of changes that occur. So one of the divisions that we're looking at on this protocol is, what is your pelvic floor doing? So on our return to run screen, we're looking at a couple different compartments. We're looking at your ability to quickly contract your pelvic floor. So a lot of times when people do this, they don't get a full contraction, they don't get all the pelvic floor walls to contract. So we're looking at your ability to contract all the walls and quickly. The next thing we're looking at is, can you perform 8 to 12 maximal contractions where you can hold upwards of 8 seconds. The next one is, can you hold a sub-maximal contraction? This is about 30 to 50% of your max contraction, and can you hold that for a minute? The last thing that we look at is a measurement, and this measurement looks at how much pelvic floor support you have. So what your pelvic floor looks like is, it's this bowl. We kind of have a cutout in the middle where the urethra, the vaginal canal, and the rectal canal come through. And after having a baby, usually that widens. That is our genital hiatus. So when we're returning to running postpartum, they found in this research that women who have 7 centimeters or less are less likely to develop pelvic floor issues. So one of the things we look at is we look at that distance for people. If people are 7 centimeters or less, they're usually okay to return to running postpartum. If someone's a little bit wider, they're not quite healed as well, we might consider other options to help them return to running, as far as using a pessary or other support devices. Any questions?
What is that word that you just said?
The genital hiatus?
No,
Oh, a pessary. So a pessary is a device that you can insert vaginally. So I compare it to glasses. When you wear your glasses, you can see. When you take your glasses off, you can't see. A pessary is a device that you can insert vaginally that helps support your internal organs. So if we have things that are coming down, if we have leakage, it helps give us more support. So if you don't have as much support from your pelvic floor, it's just a device that you can use either short-term or long-term to give you a little more support. Okay. The next part of the protocol is a load and impact assessment. So when we say load and impact, it is the ability of our body to absorb force or impact. So when I'm talking about running, as we're running, we have force that comes up from our foot to our knee to our hip up to our core. This can be really challenging when returning to running postpartum because we're just a little bit weaker. So some of these things that are on the assessment is, can we walk for 30 minutes? If we can't walk for 30 minutes without symptoms or problems, we probably shouldn't be returning to running quite yet. There's some other things that are on this list that you can see behind me, and we'll be going through a couple of those, and we're just looking at your ability to complete these without symptoms, without pain, without leakage. James got this down. Yes, we have to be able to stand on one leg. We know that when we're running a large part of the gait cycle, we're on one leg. So a lot of these activities are actually on one leg too.
We'll read them real quick because I don't know if you can see them. So
Okay.
walking for 30 minutes, single leg balance for 10 seconds. I suggest always when I make my runners do balance stuff, their knee needs to always be bent because in running, your leg would never be locked out. So that's making it more running specific. Single leg squat, 10 reps on each side. Right. Jogging jogging in place for 1 minute. Forward bounce, 10 reps. And hopping in place 10 times on each leg. So single leg hop and single leg running man. Okay.
It's like a single leg RDL.
Give us a thumbs up. Which one did you try? Which one do you need to work on so far?
Okay, and then the last is the strength compartment. So during pregnancy, we are gonna get weaker. Our core is gonna get weaker, our hips are gonna get weaker, our pelvic floor is gonna get weaker. So we wanna make sure that we have adequate support to help support the activity that we wanna do, which is running. So we should be able to do 20 single leg calf raises, we should be able to do 20 single leg bridges, we should be able to do 10 step ups, 30-second side plank, and a 1 minute front plank. Now there is a little caveat with this return to run protocol. They found that strength should not be a barrier to return to running. So if you can complete the other two parts of the assessment and you're only having some strength deficits, you can still proceed with running, but focus on those areas. So make sure that you have a program that is including the areas where you are weak.
Cool. Okay, so one of the biggest things in return to running is starting slow. So like she said, one of the biggest requirements is to just be able to walk for 30 minutes. So I have a Get Running program that helps anybody, but especially moms, get back into running or to start running. Or even runners who take like 4 months, or let's be honest, you lose fitness in 3 weeks in a week. So sometimes you got to start back at ground zero. So first thing is being able to walk for 30 minutes, okay? And then once you're able to do that, then you can start like my Get Running program. And with that, it's a big thing of like walk, run. It's really good. Like that, it's super annoying if you're a runner to like have to stop and walk. I totally get it. But it's also, there's so much research. I work with, like, it's just, you ask anybody who's like elite, Zone 2 training is a legit thing. It is so hard to do, especially when you're not very fast. Zone 2 is walking and running. So that's just what it takes to get you back into shape. So like my program has you do different intervals over 8 weeks that gets you to where you can run for 30 minutes. And then from that, then you're like at a 5K or whatever, and then you would jump into a training plan that like gives you more. But you definitely need to start by being able to walk for 30 minutes and then doing a walk run intervals. And it is always more challenging if you're pushing your child. So
Yes.
add that, and then if you got more than one, that stroller gets real big and real heavy. So give yourself credit for all of that as well. Okay, what are we gonna do? Oh, that had a star.
Last one then.
Mm-hmm. It doesn't have time.
I can't remember what we're talking about.
Okay.
Your jog in place?
Oh, let me see something real quick. I just want to make sure that it's not. Yeah, it's not. Okay. That it wasn't hidden. It's not. We don't have a timer. So.
We could do 10 pogo jumps. So,
Okay.
throughout the test, we're going to be, not the test, throughout the master class, we're going to be doing some of these things that we talked about in the protocol. One of those
With you.
Yes,
So
so
get up.
everybody stand up. Make sure you have some space around you so you're not falling on anybody. So we need to be able to jump on one foot. So we're going to be doing this 10 times in a row. So the key with this is we should not have symptoms. So no leakage, no heaviness like vaginal or rectal heaviness or pressure or pain. So if we have pain somewhere else, if we have any three of those things, we fail. Otherwise, let's see if we can get to 10. So everybody's down on one leg, and we're going to try for 10 in a row, okay?
Come on, audience.
Yeah, keep going.
Our present audience is not doing that great, but
All right, we're going to switch. Yep.
Nope.
Perfect. Okay, that's one part of the
comment,
test.
how did you pass? Comment passed if you passed. Let's see if anybody passed. I don't know yet. Okay, all you need to do, 10 single leg hops on each side without leaking. Comment pass if you did. We got some notes.
And that's okay. Just gives us a good starting place.
All right.
Okay, so we want to pay attention to our body. I kind of hate it when I say that, but I say it a lot. We want to make sure that as we're returning to running, that we're listening to our body. Some of the biggest things that I want to kind of point out when I say listen to your body is we want to make sure that as we're returning to running, that we're listening to what our body needs or what it's saying. So 3 things that I want you to look out for. The first one is pain. If you have pain anywhere, pain in your pelvis, pain in your foot, pain in your knee, that is a sign we need to listen. We need to either cut back or modify what we're doing. Oftentimes when we're returning to running, our cardiovascular system is going to adapt faster than our ligaments and our tendons. So oftentimes we can develop overuse injuries. So it's really important that we're listening to our body if we're having pain. The second thing to look out for is leakage. If we are leaking, there is something going on, whether that is a weakness problem, a coordination problem. That's a sign that we're overloading our system. And then heaviness. So if you feel any vaginal or rectal heaviness, is a sign that we are overloading our system as well. So those are the 3 things that I want you to look out for. And then just remember to take rest as you need to. Everyone is so different as we're returning to running. Some people might need a little bit more rest, and that's okay. Okay, so let's talk about your core. So your core is made up of your abdominals in the front, your pelvic floor on the bottom, your back muscles on the back, and then your diaphragm. So we're going to be talking about specifically your abdominals and your core, or your pelvic floor, in just a second. But your abdominals, what happens during pregnancy, as pregnancy progresses, our core is stretched and stretched and stretched and stretched. It is harder to engage those muscles the further in pregnancy you get. Also, you can develop ab separation or diastasis recti. This is a normal part of pregnancy, and it usually occurs around 35 weeks of gestation. So if you carry your baby for 35 weeks, you're going to develop some degree of ab separation. When it comes to postpartum, a lot of times you'll see online, like, don't do core exercise, don't do all these things. A lot of those are just blanket statements. So on a return to run protocol, that's actually a front plank, and you'll see a lot of people telling women not to do front planks. That is kind of a myth. If you can complete a core exercise without any doming or coning, like your abdomen coming forward along the center, it's an okay exercise. So our goal is to be able to do core exercise without that, and if we can do a plank without coning or doming, we're just fine. So we need to return to running by getting our core a little bit stronger, and we do have a test that we're going to be doing. We're going to be getting into a front plank. So the front plank is going to be from our elbows and from our feet. And the goal is to be able to hold this for a minute. So everybody get up. We're going to stand up, spread out. Make sure that you have some room for this.
One other thing when you do a plank, like, so I'm, because I don't even think you'll be able to like necessarily see this, you don't want your elbows back up high. They need to be like closer to your hips than up above your shoulder. Okay, so not right underneath your shoulder, even down a little bit. And it's going to be better if your hands aren't together, but they're away from each other when you're in the plank position. So they're kind of down here, not up here like this. But of course you're in the plank position. We're going to try this?
Yep, we're going to give it a go.
Okay, you guys all ready?
We got a timer, so we're going to see how far we can make it, okay? So
Oh, it's
everybody
going.
gets up.
It's going. Do it. Do it.
Everybody hang
go.
up.
I'm doing it.
Dana's doing it. All right. I'm going to be our cheerleader.
Thumbs up. Keeping
Yep,
your
thumbs up if you're still doing it. Everybody keep it up.
keeping your
We're got
Shoulders in front of
45 seconds.
elbows. 45 seconds.
Good.
You can do
You
it.
guys
You
got
can
this.
do it.
Keep going.
Keep going. Keep going.
Keep going. We're halfway there. Good job. I know
I want to
it's
see the
tough.
timer.
It's backwards.
It doesn't help.
All right, we got 18 seconds. Everyone's doing a good job. I always like to do this towards the front of the return to run protocol so we don't fatigue too much towards the end. And we're all doing a good job. We got 4 seconds. 3, 2, 1. Done.
Woo!
Good job, guys.
How did you guys do? Let's see. Did everybody do it with us? I don't know. Comment. Did you make it? Let's see. Okay. Another big thing about returning to running, get running, any of that, is the importance of actually spending some money. Running is usually a typical cheap sport. But you really do need good running shoes. That's the St. George Running Store is the best for sure if you're local. But if you're not, you need to go to a running store where they actually analyze your foot and help you find a shoe that's the best for you, rather than like any of the big box stores. They're just gonna have a high school kid working there that's gonna give you whatever pair of shoes you think look cool, which is cool. I am definitely all about looking cool in your running shoes, but then you just special order them in a color that you really want. That's all I gotta say. But you need to go to a running store to make sure you have a shoe that like fits your foot, okay? So starting from there. Next is the socks. Socks totally matter. If you're wearing all cotton socks, you will probably be way more likely to get blisters. So that's why they have fancy running socks that are not just cotton, okay? They will really help with blisters. I had tons of blisters growing up with like my background, but socks are super important. And then moving up the chain, if you have been out of the running world for a while, they make so much more cool clothes now. So a lot of these, we'll talk about hydration stuff in a second, but like the cute running shorts have pockets everywhere that help you store everything from your phone, your pepper spray, to your hydration and your fuel. So you need, cute shorts and shirts. And a lot of the sports bras nowadays even have a pocket in the back and stuff like that. One of the favorite sports bras I like are called SheFit. I could kind of drop that in here. But, and I have connections to these locally if you want them. But some of the things that are awesome about these is that they're adjustable in all of the ways. You can see this through my black shirt. But like meaning there's a band around the bottom, so once it actually fits, you can stretch that in. And then you can crisscross in the back, or you don't have to if you want them straight up. And again, those are all adjustable and super thick and not bungee, okay? This is for the girls who have girls. If you're, if your baby sucks them away or whatever, you probably don't need this much. But the other thing that's super cool about these is if you end up wearing it for a long time, it's kind of hard to show, but they actually open up. Here we go. So you can add some space in between here. I'll try to show you. First off, this is a pocket. So this has a little zipper so that you can actually put your goo in there, your phone might be an overkill, but your keys, And then you can add space, and then when you're ready to go, then zip it up, and it brings the girls together. But you don't have to stay smashed together if you're somebody who lives in your sports bra forever. So that's my shout out to those. But the sports bra is super important, especially when you're nursing. You don't want to limit the lymphatic system to the breasts at all. So, and sports bras are a lot of smashing, So trying not to live in them is going to be a better way. And that's why I like those ones. As soon as you're done, you can add some space in there, drive home or whatever, and then hopefully get out of it, or really be a mom and live in it all day, let's be honest. And I think that was it on the gear stuff, but super important, making sure that you have shoes. Oh, the other thing with your shoes is make sure that you're tracking the miles that you have on your shoes, because they do not last forever. So the typical shoes are depending on your body size and what kind of shoe and all that stuff, but usually 300, 400 miles that you need new shoes. Okay?
All right. Okay, we're going to talk about the second part of our core canister, which is our pelvic floor. So our pelvic floor is that hammock of muscles that sit at the bottom of our pelvis. It has 5 main functions. It is to help support our internal organs. It helps with stability in our pelvis. It's responsible for sphincteric things like holding back urine, gas, and feces. And it's also responsible for our sexual function. So when it comes to returning to running postpartum, a lot of times what happens is those pelvic floor muscles have been overstretched, overworked, and we got to make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to. They're supposed to work in coordination with our core. So on our assessment, what we have to do is we need to be able to hold for 8 to 12 seconds a maximal contraction, and we're going to see how long everyone can hold for. So we have another timer coming up. We're going to all do a pelvic floor contraction or a Kegel. What we want to think about is trying to close and pull up inside of us, okay?
Can I stand like this?
You could.
Okay. might help.
It's going to be easier if you're on the ground, harder when you're standing. But we need to be able to do this in standing because we're returning to running. So everyone's going to stand up to do this one.
Okay, I was just going to sit down. Okay.
Okay. All right,
We're
time
going.
for starting. Keep an eye.
Holding it up.
We're just holding it up as long as we can. Let's see how long you can hold it for.
I want you to comment what number you make it to. Are you supposed to be able to breathe at this?
Yes.
And talk?
Breathe and talk and hold. Yes. A lot of times people will hold their breath. Don't need to hold their breath.
I feel like I'm holding it up here.
Yes.
I don't think I'm squeezing the
You're
right
not?
muscles.
Squeezing more the butt.
Yeah, my
That-
glutes are.
That
abs
happens.
are
A lot of people
pretty
will
tight,
try
ready
and
to be
use
punched.
muscles.
Oh, we made it. 30 seconds.
Perfect.
Did you make it to 30? Let us know. The other thing is nutrition and hydration. Again, this is going to be even more important if you're nursing. You need to be even more hydrated. Something I do here is a sweat test. The sweat test tells you exactly how much ounces of water you need in an hour workout, as well as how much sodium and potassium. So I've been able to use that to help a lot of runners stay in their realms. But as just returning, just making sure that that you even know that, because there's plenty of runners I work with that are like, oh, I just don't do anything. I didn't know that I was even supposed to be. They do make a lot of, like I said, with the shorts they have nowadays, a handheld, so it just stays in here. You're able to do it because it's hot here in St. George for sure. And then they also, vests are super popular. If you haven't already seen the Instagram feeds on how funny it is that every runner wears a vest, no matter if they're going 2 miles or going 200 miles. So, but they're way easier packing these things just right here, But again, if you already got too much stuff going on right now because you just made babies, maybe that's not the best. They also have them where they have it in the back. You can do all sorts of cool stuff with that. So just be aware of how much water that you take in. And then on top of the water is the hydration. And hydration is electrolytes and stuff like that. The electrolyte that is I would say there's the top most important for runners. All of them are important. But it is the sodium levels, okay? So that's what the sweat test has. But there's a lot of different ways that you can get your sodium. I just brought these salt sticks as a demonstration. So these are actually salt tablets, so chewables. So they just kind of like dissolve in your mouth, or you can chew them to get it. There's all sorts of brands that you can add to your water. Element's super, super high. Liquid IV sell at Costco, so everybody loves that one, right? There's like a million different brands nowadays, so that you just pour into your water to help get all your electrolytes as well. So that's been the best. Like a lot of people have water on one side and their water with their hydration in it on the other side. So there's a whole component of hydration being important, but then there's also a whole component of fuel. And what we call fuel is more the food side of it, so carbohydrates. And then that's when like these kind of things come into balance. I love spring are kind of new-ish if you've been running for a million years. This one is actually called Awesome Sauce. It's very popular. It's hard to keep in stock. The running store tells me. But there's a million different brands and stuff with this. The thing is that you need to find one that you can eat, meaning that you like the texture of it while running. So you have to experiment with this stuff on your runs before you decide to race. But that's kind of like further down the return to running thing, right? But and the other thing is just being aware of like this one, of how many carbs it has. So this one has 45 grams of carbs. That is awesome. I tell my runners to not even mess with one that has like 20, because you do need like even like 60 grams of carbs an hour would be super awesome, but a lot of runners don't have any, so I'm like 40 to 60, please try to shoot for it. So if your goo or whatever only has 20, you have to pack a shizload of them. And so so I like the ones that have like more, so you just don't have to pack as many things on you. But paying attention, just see where you're at, and if you're returning to running, just make sure you have one of these with you. Or, I mean, you can have real food too, but how many carbs are in it is what you need to be aware of and start tracking, and then as you get going further and stuff like that, you'll use more and more carbs. Do we have questions on fuel or hydration? Pop them in there and we will get back to that if somebody has any questions.
Okay, we're going to be talking a little bit about making sure you're incorporating rest into your routine. So rest days are very important, especially as you're starting to get back into things. A lot of times we like to hit the road running and go full out. We want to make sure that as we are returning to running, that we're also making sure we have rest days in between. So if you're feeling a little bit more fatigued, if you're having a little bit harder time getting out there, make sure it's okay to take a rest break when you need to. This can be really helpful to help your body to regenerate and recover, and make sure we're not pushing into injury or causing further problems down the road.
Another thing that's awesome to start learning when you first get back into running is running form. So you don't start with bad habits. It's all like, it's always easier to start not easier, but it works better if you get back into running in the correct form. So that's a good time. Another thing that I do is running assessments, where I video you running and then I help give you ideas on how to run more efficiently, which would both benefit your injuries or injury prevention as well as performance. So one of the big things I break the running form down into 5 key things, and that's what I do in a running assessment, okay? But the one thing that's like the most related to moms peeing while they're running is the bounding, okay? So bounding is when we jump up and down while running. When we're running, we want every single motion of us moving us forward, pushing us forward, right? I mean, my hurdlers, maybe not, I'm saying wrong arm. But for endurance runners, we want every motion pushing us forward. And bounding is up and down. So one of the first cues that if you know actually I should share this fun fact, is that you should actually be able to run in a room as tall as you are, because at stance, your knee is bent. And then when we bow up, we shouldn't, I lifted my hand, sorry. Let's try again. This is how tall I am. If I go like this, then I go down this far, and then when I jump, I can't do it with my hand. But then you shouldn't jump higher than that. When the 2-hour marathon was broken last year, all of these stats come out, and his, can't think of his name, because then he passed away. But was out on the stats on him, and that's the kind of stuff that I geek out on. But his vertical oscillation, how high he was jumping, was 100.4% of his height. So he could definitely like glide. You watch the end of the marathons; those people are just freaking gliding. So bounding is not good. So one of the things to like the cue that I like is you don't want to necessarily like be moving your arms just from here, because that kind of like helps you jump up and down, right? If you jump rope, like that's what you're doing, is up and down with your hands, right? So instead, in running, we want him to move front and back. So I say you elbow the bad guy behind you, and you should always have like a window right here where you can see behind you. No, you can't see behind me. I swear I'm bringing it back. There we go. Okay, it was fine down here, but Instagram was like, so that you can see behind there. As opposed to like here, you see that my elbows aren't moving at all. I'm just beating the drum. This is going to help me move forward, versus this is going to help me go up and down. So it's making sure you swing your arms to help you not bound, and then you're not bouncing so much, which of course is like the whole pelvic floor that Kelsey's been talking about. Pressure, you know, make you pee more, because you have to have more strength there if you're jumping instead of bounding, instead of gliding. Anyways, that was a picture of somebody that I helped.
Okay, before we talk about this last slide, I just want to throw in my 2 cents. I think a lot of people's form and gait changes, especially from pregnancy to postpartum, just because there's such a rapid change in body mass, in how your center of mass is. So going from where you are, here, and back, there's so many changes that occur. So I think this is very, very important, and I think it's often overlooked. I definitely highly, highly recommend that you get your gait analyzed, and Dana is a wonderful resource for that. So I just want to throw that out there. Okay.
I do want to say, like, I remember with my first baby that my feet grew. They hadn't grown in like I don't know how long, you know. And then I made that first baby, and I had to like wear bigger shoes forever. So, and that's, I mean, they didn't shrink back, you know. Like, so there's a lot of like even that having bigger feet is going to make you run a little bit different. So